finally, liquidity is a critical element for ETFs. Most ETFs trade without having to trade the underlying securities, but creation and redemption of ETFs is critical for the markets to perform smoothly. And there are ways to make that process easier. NYSE's parent, the Intercontinental Exchange, is launching a new service called the ETF Hub, designed to allow issuers to more seamlessly transmit creation and redemption instructions. Joining us now to explain all this, Lynn, head of data services for the Intercontinental Exchange. I was aware of how important the creation and redemption process was, but not that it can be made more efficient. What are you trying to do, and why is this important?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Bob, and thanks for having me on today. You know, we've got a great relationship with one of our customers, and one of the thought leaders in this place, BlackRock in particular, came to us to explain to us how bifurcated the workflow is, particularly in the creation and redemption processes. There are multiple different workflows that an issuer has to maintain in order to achieve a single create or redeem instruction today. So what we looked to do is to look at all the assets we have under our umbrella and package them in a certain way, which would bring together the community in a far more efficient fashion, a centralized location to allow a seamless creation and redemption of these ETF assets.
Now, I was not aware of this. I assumed that there was procedures that all of the issuers follow that were essentially the same, and I was surprised when I was speaking to you to find out that they're not, and that creates inefficiencies, and that's what we're talking about, wringing out inefficiencies. What happens as a result of these inefficiencies? It causes confusion, it causes delays, what happens?
Delays, confusion, whatever the case may be. While the processes may be standard, the technology that exists today is not. Generally, an issuer maintains their own technology. Some of the custodians maintain their own technology, and those technologies really aren't integrated and aren't connected. That is what we're seeking to do through message-based protocols, is to integrate all of the ETF ecosystem, from issuers, ETF authorized participants, market makers, and custodians in a common, seamless workflow.
So how are you going to do this? Are you going to have a platform where, if somebody says, I want to create 10,000 shares of my ETF, how do you, just explain the process, how that works.
So we have a single platform, which both has a technology interface as well as, most importantly, message-based APIs, which would allow you to use multiple different types of software that you use on a day-to-day basis into the ETF workflow. That will unite multiple issuers, multiple authorized participants, which some of the authorized participants are incredibly excited about that. Multiple market makers, and of course the most important, custodians in the market. So that way, a seamless confirmation of a creation or redemption construction is what we're rolling out in phase one. But we're looking to extend the functionality to allow for the negotiation of custom baskets, particularly as a result of the ETF rule being passed.
Yeah. Now, Tim, you manage a cannabis ETF, one of many cannabis ETFs out there right now, but does this resonate with you? Is there a need for this kind of product?
Well, there sure is, and I guess the question I have to Lynn is, in a less liquid marketplace, especially one that people want a very specialized exposure, help people understand the difference between liquidity in an ETF and liquidity in the underlying constituents, because this seems like the classic case where people could get exposure and you could bring in that efficiency and that standardization.
Yeah, so if you look at the creation and redemption process, particularly if you look at fixed income and the customized basket process, which is probably the most complex, an index is going to have a certain amount of constituents associated with it. When you're creating or redeeming a share of an ETF, generally you'll go out to the market, canvass the market to see what securities you would exchange in exchange for that creation or redemption unit. What the customized process allows is substitutes. Substitutes similarly situated securities with same profiles, as well as a cash and kind process.
So synthetic? I mean, is it in other words, is it getting that exposure?
It's the same exposure, but allowing you to do it in a much more efficient fashion.
Yeah. And Marianne, you've been an observer of this business for a long time. Is there a need for this product, in your opinion? Will it help efficiency? Would it help improve liquidity? What can this possibly do?
The transparency, I think, is going to be one of the most important things, and Bank of America is very happy to also partner because we feel that there's a need for this. And when I'm out talking to clients, even professional clients that have been in the business for a long time, they really don't understand the liquidity mechanics behind ETFs. They don't understand.
Or they're scared of them, Mary, right? In other words, as a hedge fund manager, a lot of times I don't even want to put that on because I feel like I'm trapped in a roach motel if it's not big enough.
Unnecessarily, though, because many times ETFs are accretive to liquidity in an underlying market. Takes the fixed income markets, for example. They have enabled the continued liquidity building of that market.
I think this is another confirmation that the ETF market is not going to blow up.
Yeah.
I think the number one question I get is, when are ETFs going to blow up the market? And again, getting to the concern about creation, redemption, and liquidity.
Yeah.
I think this is what you're doing really establishes that ETFs are here to stay and not to necessarily blow up the market.
I gave them the chance to say they didn't need it, and they keep supporting you. Wow, but you guys get together
we believe
before.
this is going to help the ETF market grow.
Thank you.